I'm Clarence Horton. On behalf of historic Cabarrus and Cabarrus County, welcome to another historical moment in the story of Cabarrus County. September evenings have always been magical times in Cabarrus County. In former days, it meant that the crops were safely in the barn, that school was open for another session, and the cooler days brought the promise of hay rides and high school football games, of Halloween and eventually Thanksgiving. For most of the past 53 years, September also brought with it an invitation to come to the old Cabarrus County Fairgrounds on Cabarrus Avenue for the Cabarrus County Fair, complete with cotton candy, with a carousel, intriguing sideshows with informative and entertaining exhibits, with livestock and with rides for children of all ages. In recent years, the fair has moved from its location to a new location, but generations of Cabarrus County citizens still carry the images and memories of those distant times with them. Today we're doing a segment on the history of the Cabarrus County Fair, which we've called Always in September. Originally, North Carolina fairs were organized in several of the larger counties of Piedmont, North Carolina. Both Mecklenburg and Rowan counties had local fairs. They were places where farmers could come after the crops were in, compare their crop yields, socialize some, enjoy a horse race, and also trade notes on improved farming methods. In 1852, the North Carolina Agricultural Commission was organized in an effort to spread the news of improved farming practices throughout the state. In 1853, the society held its first state fair in Raleigh, a fair which was both well attended and highly publicized throughout the state. That fair spread the news of improved farming methods to farmers in North Carolina who hadn't changed their farming practices much in over a century. It also brought excitement to some of the smaller counties in the state. In Cabarrus County, an agricultural society was organized in 1856. In that same year, a number of our local citizens entered their produce and products in the North Carolina State Fair, and a number won premiums for their entries. Unfortunately, war and the Reconstruction era intervened, and Cabarrus County didn't hold its first agricultural fair until the mid-1870s, when a group of interested citizens, including Columbus Mills and Charles Harris and others, organized a livestock fair in the Poplar Tent section of the county. That early fairgrounds was located on a broad hill behind Poplar Tent Presbyterian Church. The fair featured not only a well-known livestock show, but also an opportunity to gather together and to enjoy food, and also to enjoy the horse and buggy racing, which was popular in that day. On the eastern or Dutch side of the county, the St. John's Agricultural and Mechanical Society, which was associated with the Mount Pleasant Grange, organized a fair to be held after the crops were in 1877. That fair, which was extremely popular, was held on the fields surrounding the historic St. John's Lutheran Church. It featured not only livestock and crops which were raised in the area, but homemade preserves and quilts and goods of all sorts and descriptions. In 1888, during June, the Poplar Tent and St. John associations met together at the historic courthouse in Concord, North Carolina, to organize a Cabarrus County Agricultural and Mechanical Society of North Carolina. H.C. McAllister had the honor of serving as the first president. The society adopted a constitution and immediately began to work on plans to hire a contractor and began to erect a fairground so that the fair could be held that fall during the week preceding the North Carolina State Fair. Cabarrus County Association met again on July 4th of that year to complete their plans for the new fairground and to let the contracts for the buildings. The association had secured a large fairground on South Union Street between South Union and Spring Streets and between Bloom and Tribune Avenues. The fairgrounds of about 10 acres was also going to include a half-mile dirt racetrack for the popular race and buggy races of the year. The racetrack was about 40 feet in width. By August 1888, the local newspaper reported that contractor R.A. Brown and his workmen had completed all the necessary work to build the two main buildings, Floral Hall and Agricultural Hall, as well as to build a large grandstand which would hold up to 1,800 people, as well as a judge's reviewing stand. Wells were dug on the property to ensure a good water supply both for the animals which were being exhibited and for all the visitors that were expected to attend the fair. The old fences which surrounded the St. John's and the Poplar Tent fairs was taken up and brought to the new fair location and used to create an 8-foot tall fence entirely around the new fairgrounds. George Means, who was acting as Concord's police chief in 1888, recorded in his diary that that early fair was widely attended and was quite popular with the people. Chief Means reported that those early crowds were pretty well controlled, but that he had to make a few arrests for liquor law violations, for assaults, and for violations of the ordinances against public profanity. In addition to the horse races, those early fairgoers enjoyed the spectacle of skilled local riders trying to spear 6 wooden rings while riding at breakneck speed. The rings were suspended 7 feet above the ground and located about 100 feet apart. The rider who speared more of the 6 rings was declared the winner of the tournament. Tournament and ring streets in Concord owe their names to this practice. Despite its popularity, the Cabarrus County Fair closed in 1893 and was not reorganized until 1923. The 30 years between those dates were the era of the great circuses and carnivals. Circuses arrived in Concord at the depot and then set up their tents on West Depot Street or Corbin Avenue and sometimes on the old Winecoff property in the Hillcrest section of Concord. Many of the citizens of Concord remembered for many years the carnival which came to town in 1901, because that carnival, which set up its tents on Barbaric Avenue, included a tent in which was shown the first motion picture folks of this area had ever seen. It had just recently been made and covered the life, assassination, and burial of President William McKinley. Buffalo Bill came to town about that same time, bringing his Wild West show with a full complement of cowboys and Indians. The Buffalo Bill Wild West show was set up on North Church Street on the fields across from the location of Cabarrus Creamery. The famous female sharpshooter Annie Oakley accompanied the show at that time. Another favorite of children for this area was the famous Gentry Brothers Dog and Pony Show, which was shown every year and which was a great delight for the school children here. Even the famous 20 Mule team, which brought borax out of Death Valley, and which later became the subject of a popular television show, was also exhibited in Concord in the early years of the 1900s, to the delight of all the populace. Concord businessman Joseph F. Cannon was the driving force behind the reorganization of the Cabarrus County Fair in 1923. That fair was constructed on a large fairground located across U.S. Highway 29, near the location of the intersection of U.S. Highway 29 and Cabarrus Avenue. It boasted a large dirt racetrack with a grandstand, which was erected so that people could watch the popular horse and buggy racing of that day. The fair was also designed to serve the purpose of telling farmers about alternative cash crops which could help replace their losses due to the effect the boll weevil had on their cotton. There were some 15,000 paid admissions on the first day of that fair, which began in October 1923. That early fair featured a midway which boasted of having 25 clean shows and 8 rides for people of all ages. Each night, the show ended with a spectacular fireworks exhibition, which drew people from all over the county. The fair was tremendously successful with its exhibitions of livestock and local goods. The Cabarrus District Fair survived the early years of the Great Depression. It had a successful season in 1934, but funds were simply not available to pay the large cost of restoring and renovating the wooden grandstand and other buildings. The fair closed after that season, did not open again until after the end of World War II. In 1946, residents of the eastern section of Cabarrus County, particularly those in the St. John's community, reorganized the St. John's Community Fair. It was held on a fairground centered on the old St. John's School near historic St. John's Lutheran Church. The fair was very successful and operated from 1946 to 1951 when it closed finally. The old St. John's School was lost to fire in the early 1970s. The story of our modern fair begins in 1953 when the Concord Chamber of Commerce led a drive to reorganize the Cabarrus County Agricultural Fair. J. Lee White was elected as first president of the Cabarrus County Fair, with L.D. Coltrane Jr. serving as vice president. Pete Gravely was the manager of the Concord Chamber of Commerce at that time, and Mr. Gravely also served as manager of the Cabarrus County Fair during 1953 and 1954. When Mr. Gravely moved from Concord, local attorney Clyde L. Probst Jr. became a very successful manager for the fair, serving until his untimely death in 1991. Under Probst's management, the fair grew tremendously from its small one-tent beginnings in 1953. It featured exhibits of livestock and fancy poultry, country and western music, midways that were filled with civic clubs and organizations offering a tremendous variety of good food, the Degler Brothers rides providing entertainment for children, and the huge Degler Brothers double sky wheel, which lit up the sky at night and gave children their first Ferris wheel ride. Following the death of Mr. Probst, Harold McEachern served as general manager of the fair, while Probst's longtime assistant, Mary Ann Cooper, was named as manager operations. Mr. McEachern last served as general manager in 2001.
Well, this is the 49th Cabarrus County Fair, and this will be the last fair that I'll be as a general manager. And I started in 1991 as the general manager, and we've seen a lot of changes in the fair business. So I want to thank the thousands of people over the years that's come out here and enjoyed the Cabarrus County Fair. It's truly one of the old-time country fairs.
Leaving Mary Ann Cooper to serve as sole manager of the fair in 2002, as it celebrated both its 50th anniversary and its new home at the Cabarrus Arena and Events Center. Familiar sights and sounds of the fair continue to draw residents, many of whom have attended the Cabarrus County Fair since they were children. From its beginnings in 1953 in one moldy tent, it has now become one of the largest fairs in the state. In addition to the usual exhibitions of prize livestock and poultry and other farm goods, the fair offers quality entertainment for families. A wonderful variety of food, rides for children of all ages, and exciting sounds and images which will create memories for a lifetime. It's not difficult on a starlit September evening to imagine that we hear the voices of showmen and vendors from a time long past. The exciting sounds of horses and buggies on a half-mile dirt track. The sound of Walt Probst as he tunes up his fiddle for his favorite old gray mule. The excited voices of children as they experience all the sights and sounds of the fair, and the priceless wonderment in their eyes as they watch the Degler brothers' double sky wheel light up the night sky for many miles around. Thank you for joining us for this segment of Historical Moments as we turn another page in the history of this special place, this Cabarrus. We hope to see you again real soon.